you're such a part of my life that when you're not a part of my life in something, it feels really weird. So I have a request.
Okay.
I need you to watch Love is Blind.
No. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Because I have so many emotions wrapped up in the show, and I talk to Daisy about it all the time, and I can never talk to you, and I'm wondering why you can't do that for me. Because it is a part of my soul now at this point.
Ellen, I went to court with you for a year. I've done enough.
I hate it when you do that. You can't. Come on. Oh, dang it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to I Think Not, the podcast where we're just here.
Yeah, we're just here. We are just here.
We have way too much on each other to go anywhere, really. We have way too much.
Way too much. I wish I could say I cared. You know, it's like people were like, you would love The Real Housewives. I'm like, I don't care about a bunch of rich women whining about how somebody looked at their husband cross-eyed and then it's a 3-episode arc. I just don't care. Same with Love is Blind. I don't need a show like Love is Blind to tell me that people are crazy. I know it. I see them every day. There's a crazy person parade right in front of my house.
Well, you shouldn't have moved to Los Angeles. Welcome, everyone, to I Think Not, the podcast where Joey Taranto and I am Ellen Marsh, hi, recap your favorite true crime TV shows episode by episode. We do a new show every month over here on our main feed, but on our Patreon, that is where you're going to get all of our bonus episodes, including ad-free. You're also going to get our true crime adjacent, where we're covering the secret lives of Mormon wives. What else are they going to get, Joey?
Basically anxiety. So much anxiety because there's so much bonus material to get through. I'll see you in 2028.
Honestly, if you've not been on the Patreon, you could feasibly listen to us every day for a calendar year. There's hundreds of bonus episodes there from your favorite true crime TV shows like Who the Bleep Did I Marry, See No Evil, Pink Collar Crimes. He can't even remember. There's so many he can't even remember. I almost got away with it. Smug Shots.
I mean, we could just keep going on and on and on. But in addition to...
Can you, though? Because I don't think you can. Anyway, head over to
Can you let me pivot?
Head over to patreon.com/I Think Not and take a look for yourself. But don't forget, no matter what, we'll always be here on your general feed on Wednesdays. Joey, we're starting a new series. What are we doing?
We are doing a show called People Investigate. And by people, we mean People Magazine. And I haven't read a People Magazine in a hot minute.
No, but I did love it back in the day. Like, if I was getting on an airplane, I was getting, like, a People Magazine and a Cosmo.
Good for you.
Yeah, they'd be like, do you know what your orgasm color is? It was getting a little crazy there by the end.
What?
Have an orgasm and also make homemade cream cheese.
Oh my God. It's like, take this test to figure out which toe fungus you are. You know? It's like
magazines. Right. Oh, gather around the campfire, children. We are doing People Investigates, and there's, 600 seasons, but we chose season 5. So season 5, episode 1, Highway of Horrors.
Which is also my Grindr username. Okay, well, we are in Greenville, South Carolina with Joanne Zywicki, who is here to tell us about her daughter, Tammy Zywicki. Now, Tammy was the middle child, and when I hear middle child, I think of the most famous middle child, Jan Brady.
You are the middle child, aren't you?
Middle child? Don't you mean Marsha Brady's little sister? Marsha! Yes, I'm in the middle.
That face that she makes, please go watch it on YouTube. Who is that actress?
I was just about to say, what is her name? Because she was the best part of that movie. Ben Stiller's wife played Marsha. I can't remember her name right now. It's so good.
Christine
Baranski.
Christine Taylor.
She was so good.
Jennifer Elise Cox, who was also on an episode of Sex and the City. And she's like, oh, nobody goes to see the movie. Everybody
sees the with Vince Vaughn. Everyone sees the movie. She's a comedic genius. What the heck?
She doesn't really act anymore. Honestly, the Brady Bunch movie is also highly underrated. Shelley Long was brilliant. Highly recommend. Go see it.
Totally agree. Well, this case was written by People magazine in 1993 in an article called The Long Road Back. And here's the thing. They call it The Long Road Back, and they really make a point of saying it was 30 years ago and we're still talking about it. And I was like, you don't need to tell us that. Like, you've come to the wrong place because I still think 1993 was like 10 years ago.
Yep.
And I still quote Friends. I still think Jordan Catalano is the hottest person ever. And if this song comes on the radio... I am getting on the dance floor, and you can make fun of my ancient ass all you want. I am fucking dancing.
Can I just tell you something? Also, if you take all of those like dance hits from the 90s, you could string them along because they actually, a lot of them are in the same key and they have the same beat.
Yeah.
And like rhythm. So rhythm is a dancer. It's a soul companion. Bum, bum. This is the rhythm of the night. My night. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and then you could go into It's a Beautiful Life. Oh. We should do this on our next show.
We should do a mashup of all of our favorite 90s songs. That's such a good idea. Write it down. Who's in charge of this shit show? I have no idea. I'm just saying, I don't think it's weird to talk about a case from 1993. It tracks. We're old. We're here. Get used to it. What?
And that's Cats. But here's the thing. Unlike Jan Brady, Tammy was able to keep up with her brothers, and she basically found her own way. Now, oldest brother, Todd Zywicki, says that as the only girl, Tammy had a very special place in the family, and she kept up with her brothers. Now, People magazine's editorial director, Cynthia, says that the Zwickis
They have a basketball hoop in the driveway and a big backyard for running around.
It's the only thing you were allowed to do. The backyard was for running only. That applied to Grandma, too. Grandma, if you're going to be back there, we at least expect a little jog. Let's go, Flojo.
You know, kids don't go out and play. Do you know what kids don't have anymore? Broken bones. No, I'm not kidding. You know when we were kids? There was always someone with an arm cast, someone on crutches, someone with a broken kids don't have broken bones. They don't have broken bones anymore because they don't go outside and play.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. If you want, you could just push Lola into traffic so she understands what it was like for us in the 80s and 90s.
God, we had it hard. Also, Tammy was really athletic. And back then in South Carolina, her school didn't have a soccer team. And I think this is so cool. She founded the soccer team at her high school, or she was one of the founding members. I just think that's so cool. Babe, do you remember what my nickname was when I played? Look at you.
Yeah.
I was so ready for you to fail that question.
No. And now the nickname Razor no longer applies to your shoulders. It applies to your tongue.
I'll take it. What was my nickname that my dad gave me?
I don't like this game because it's very mean. And I hate that he called you Mr. Ed. That's fucking terrible.
As I laugh and cover my mouth. Do you know, I told you for 15 years of my life, I didn't smile with teeth, right?
That's terrible.
I mean, they're pretty big teeth. Anyway, she was also artistic. And in high school, she started doing photography, and that actually then became her passion. Now, after graduation, her family moved to Marlton, New Jersey, because her dad got reassigned in his job. Do you know who else was from Marlton, New Jersey?
Who?
Do you remember Christina Grimmie from Death by Fame? Yeah,
yes.
I don't know why I remember that, but she was from there too. That story stays with me. That
my
girl
God,
was
same.
so talented. Oh my gosh.
I mean, people right now, listen, I think Chappell Roan, she needs a break. She's exhausted and she's been saying some goofy things. But when she talked about setting boundaries as a famous person, I mean, I immediately thought of Christina Grimmie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's scary. Also, I looked up Marlton, New Jersey, and I was like, oh, wow, it's really close to Philadelphia.
Yeah, totally.
After Tammy graduates from high school, Her family moves to Marlton, New Jersey for her dad's job. She's off to Grinnell College, a really prestigious liberal arts school in Iowa.
Now, my parents also did that shortly after I went to college because we all kind of left the house really fast after each other, and my parents needed to downsize. So they moved to a new house. The only weird thing about it is they didn't tell me where they moved.
Great.
I thought that was weird. But it was a fun little game we played for like 6 or 7 years.
Where in the world is Ellen Martian's mama?
Mom, where did you move to? I don't know. Just vibe it out and find us. That's what she said. That woman is a devil.
Tammy gets into a very prestigious art college called Grinnell. It's in Iowa, and like you said...
You know what they call Iowa?
No.
Yeah, they call Iowa the Broadway of the Midwest.
I missed that.
They have all kinds. They have Broadway, and they have... Yeah, look it up. It's in the Bible.
Nice. So Tammy was really only home in New Jersey for summer breaks and, fall break. That's about it. Now, we're going to meet quite a few of Tammy's friends.
So many.
Who just gush over her.
Yeah.
A woman named Jen Dowd Nelson is here. They played soccer together in college, and she says...
She and I just connected right away. She was the kind of person who just sort of lit up your day when you got to be with her.
Thank you for saying she didn't light up a room, because I feel like we're making progress now.
She's like, I'm not falling into that trap, suckers.
And Tammy's dorm mate, Amy Fort, she says that Tammy used photography as a way to make people seen. She'd snap their picture and basically surprise them with this beautiful image she captured of them. I think that that's so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when your best friend takes pictures of you showing off your new caraway pots, and then you flash your butt, and she makes this reel out of it and posts it on Instagram.
That sounds like a good friend.
Yeah, it does.
She sounds lovely. I'd like to invite her to supper. So something else that Amy Fort said, which I thought was very sweet, was that Tammy was a really good listener. And that's really important to have in a friend. It's like you, babe. Joey?
What?
Exactly. Anyway, Stacy Pappas is here, another friend from college. Now, she said they shared the love of old movies and James Dean. I have always wondered how James Dean has had the icon staying power that he has. Isn't it weird? He was only in 3 movies.
She loved James Dean. She had pictures of him up on her wall, like he was a teen idol of the day.
Yeah, what's interesting is because, first of all, he was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
2, he was so brooding and mysterious.
Rebel, yeah.
Yeah, and then 3, and also everyone, even I feel like women wanted to be like him. Do you know what I mean? That air of mystery. But then his life was cut so short that it is that thing where I'm like, I wonder where you could have gone. I wonder what you could have been. I think it's a mix of all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I went through a phase for 2 years where I thought I was James Dean and I did my hair like him until one of my friends was like, there's one James Dean. Enough with this hair. Who are you, fucking Jason Priestley?
Baby, your hair can only be described as slightly schizophrenic over the years. You can't pin it down. You can't. Where is this going? Oh, a flat iron now? Okay, great. I think the only thing I've never seen you have, honestly, is a proper buzz cut. Have you ever had a buzz cut?
I have.
Yeah. I feel like that's the only thing I've never seen. The long...
Why did you do that like the grape lady?
It's a lot of fun, a whole day. Stop.
I love that video.
We got to get back on track. Okay, Stacy, this is the most wholesome thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
She's like, we also loved the Garfield comic strip.
Yeah.
We just thought it was so funny. And I was like, that's not like you and me. People would be like, oh, what was Ellen and Joey like? They're like, they love TikToks of people falling really hard. They were monsters. So.
You all, Joey sent me a farting TikTok about 20 minutes before we started recording. He is 12. Do not get it twisted.
Can I play a little of it? Can I play just a little of it?
Go for it, babe.
You guys know I love farts.
We flying first class up in the sky, pop the shit ass, living my life.
We have to get back to the story.
Well, the whole point is that Tammy was just authentically herself. She was incredibly positive. People were like, she's just this really cool girl that was easy to be around and ambitious, just like a ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
In August of 1992, Tammy's getting ready to start her senior year.
We were free to be ourselves and to explore the world. It was a great time, and I think Tammy really embraced that.
She's ready to head out, and so is her younger brother, Darren, who's actually at Northwestern. They're going to drive to Evanston, Illinois, and then she's going to go on to college. And we see the car that they packed up. Do you know what kind of car it was?
No. A Dodge Dart?
No, it was a Chevrolet Chevette. Which many people confuse for the Dart, and even though a Chevrolet is American-made, it does not compare to the Dart. The Chevy Chevette is a piece of crap, and I'd go on record saying that.
You know, Sharon, it's so interesting that you're such a huge... Sorry, I didn't mean to burp like that.
You're disgusting.
I know. It's so interesting that you are such a huge fan of the Dart, but like, weren't they recalled? And also, aren't you still waiting for a carburetor? Like, it doesn't function properly?
First of all, Blue Eyes, I'd beg you to stay out of my personal business. What are you gonna ask me for one of those nudie pics next? All right? What's my business is my business. What I do with my carburetor, also my business. You're getting fresh, okay? You got a fresh mouth there, all right? So don't you worry about my Dart. It's fine. And no is the answer to the nudie pic question, all right?
Okay, got it.
I see where this is going, and this long game of the gay thing that you've been trying. You've been trying to dick me down for years.
You caught me. I'm a schemer. I scheme.
I'm just saying, the Chevy Chevette ain't shit.
Got it.
Sharon out.
I love when she shows up. It's really a blasty blast. Yeah, so here's the thing. Tammy and her brother, they've got a long drive ahead of them. I mean, it's even longer for Tammy because, Iowa is not super close. And it's basically going to take her 3 days.
The car is having some problems, and she has to pull over a couple of times.
What was required was just let the car cool down. And Darren, I guess he had added some water.
I don't know anything about cars.
My mom's Volvo used to do that. Like, she would do the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was the 90s. It was like the Wild Wild West. So they spend their first night in Pittsburgh, and then they head 8 hours to Northwestern. And as soon as they got to Northwestern, Mama Joanne said, Tammy was always really good about checking in. Yeah. And so it's 1992. Maybe they had pagers? I don't know. But they definitely didn't have cell phones.
No, so she would call in. I mean, I forget. Like, I was alive when we did not have cell phones. But I had a cell phone when I was like 17, 18.
Yeah, maybe. No. Yeah, really?
Yeah, my dad got one, and when I would go somewhere, my dad would put that phone in my hand and be like, have this on you.
Oh, interesting. I guess you were one of the rich kids, huh?
No, it wasn't that. No. 4 kids.
Zach Morris.
Just a
showing
suitcase.
Up with your
opening up a suitcase and pulling out a fucking phone.
Brick phone. Well, a couple people make it a point to say that Tammy was really good about checking in. Like Mama Joanne says it, all of her friends say it. And friend Stacy also knew the best way to get a hold of her was always to go check in with Mama Joanne as well.
So Stacy heard that Tammy was making that drive, and she's like, fuck, I need a ride to school. Maybe if I can get in touch with her in time between her leaving Northwestern and heading here to Iowa, she can swing by and pick me up. Well, they played phone tag a little bit, right? And Tammy eventually did call Stacy. She left a message on her answering machine. LOL, remember answering machines?
Gather around the campfire, children. Back in the 90s, there was an electronic device, children, and it was attached to a phone that was attached to a wall. We're not even going to get into that. And if the phone was not picked up after a few rings, you would get a quirky message left to the caller. And then after the sound of a beep, children, you could leave your message, and that little machine automatically played your pre-recorded message and took the new message in. Oh, it was a wonderful time to be alive, children. We had so much fun with answering machines.
I mean, y'all, remember you had like little cassette tapes?
Yes.
And when it would fill up, you had to flip it over and you would just record over them. I remember in second grade, I called my friend and his family's outgoing message was, "We can't answer the phone because we aren't at home, but we'll call you back another day." Beep.
The things we remember, where was that locked? Where is that little song locked in your brain? There are things wrong with us. Is anyone listening? I don't even know.
We knew Tammy would be checking in because she was really good about checking with her mom. Her mom gave her the message to call me, and Tammy called, but I wasn't home. I thought, okay, I'd see her soon.
Oh, God, I don't like where this is going.
So Tammy leaves her brother, and her brother's like, don't forget, if the car gives you trouble, pull over, let it cool down, give it some water. And then they said goodbye. And now that drive should have been about 5 hours, kind of like a straight shot on Interstate 80.
Yeah, I keep wanting to call this college Gillette, and it's Grinnell. I'm like, welcome to Gillette College. We specialize in shaving all of your body, head to toe.
It takes 4 years. We're accredited.
What everyone expected was for Tammy to arrive at her college, and then she would call Mama Joanne, say, "I made it." And that's what she always did. Mm-hmm. But that night, Mama Joanne didn't hear from her. No one did. And of course, this worried her mom, so she called Grinnell and asked them to check on Tammy. When her friend Stacy got to school, the one who was trying to get a ride, she sees handwritten notes all over the campus saying, "Tammy, call your mama, she's freaking out." It was the Muggles version of Molly Weasley sending a howler to Ron.
If you put another toe out of line, we'll bring you straight home!
Thank God those aren't real, because my mama would have been cursing me out at my Christian high school every day.
Joey, your mama is disappointed, just on every bulletin board.
No, it would be like this. "Joey Taranto, if we have to hear the Pocahontas soundtrack one more time, I will destroy your boombox."
Your boombox. There's so many gather around the campfire, children.
I know.
I can't get to all of it. So yeah, everyone is kind of like talking about it. Has anyone heard from Tammy? Has anyone heard from Tammy? And no one had seen her. Well, that day, a trooper comes across the car, and it was parked on the shoulder, and the car was empty, but it was locked. So actually, I totally understand why this trooper would come to this conclusion. He's like, honestly, something probably happened to the car. This person is probably walking to get help, and he just goes back to his duties because the car was locked and things were in it, right? She was going back to college.
Yeah. So this car was found on a stretch of I-80, which is the highway that Tammy would take to get to college, right? So they've not connected the two. Why did I just mansplain that? I think it's just because you didn't mention that it was found on I-80. And they say I-80 so many times.
Right. I guess when I said it's a straight shot on I-80 the whole way,
2 minutes earlier,
that drive should have been about 5 hours, kind of like a straight shot on Interstate 80.
A few moments later.
I think our listeners probably would have been like, oh, she was... But you know what? You explained it so much better with your penis.
You know, sometimes...
Your penis explains things so much better than my dummy, silly vagina.
Yeah, sometimes these testicles are problematic. I really do apologize. I'm fighting nature is what I'm doing.
The next morning is Monday, and nobody's heard from Tammy since she dropped off Darren at Northwestern the day before. So her family contacts authorities and files a missing persons report.
And the cops are like, yeah, we can take the report. You might be jumping the gun here. And I will never understand that response from police. Isn't it your job to take everything seriously? Isn't that what you're paid for? And then they're like, maybe she's with her boyfriend. And her mom was like, she doesn't even have a boyfriend.
Yeah, maybe she's getting her nails done. Being a silly girl. Girls are so silly. They're always worried about their hair and their nails and boys. She's probably just with the boys. Everybody knows how silly and boy crazy girls are. I'm sure she'll show up. Maybe she's at the beauty parlor.
Yeah, maybe she's just sitting in a dressing room at the Limited reading through Adelia's.
Right, just write it down. Don't tell them they're overreacting. Write it down. What the fuck are you doing in the middle of write it down. Take the report.
It's called empathy. Now, while all of this is happening, that white car is still on the shoulder of the I-80, and a trooper decides to have the car towed to an impound lot in LaSalle, Illinois. Now, while Tammy's dad is calling the police trying to get their help, he finds out, and they don't tell us how, but that Tammy's car has been impounded by the police, and he's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
So now, all of Tammy's friends hear that the car was found abandoned on the highway. And in that moment, they knew something is very wrong and most likely she's in trouble because it's interesting. Several people were like, Tammy would never just leave her car.
So the parents don't know what to do.
When I found out Tammy was not with her car, that was very upsetting. And then we went down to Grinnell to see if we could find out anything.
Brother Todd is such a down bitch. Brother Todd just got to Northwestern. He heard what happened to his sister, and he's such a fucking DB. He's like, hey, guys, just got back to college. Something is happening with my family. I might be back. I might not. I got to go home. And he just beelines back home. And everyone is still trying to figure out, where is she? Why did she leave her car? Because that car is about 200 miles away from Grinnell. She didn't get very far on her journey.
Yeah.
And the car, this isn't in the episode, but the car was at marker 83. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but it was very far from an exit. Sometimes when you're driving and they're like, okay, there's no exits for like 10 miles. So if you got to get gas, go here. And it wasn't close to an exit.
So the police decide to search Tammy's car, right? The thing is that her purse is missing, her keys are missing, and her camera is gone, right? And that's when we meet retired Lieutenant Jeffrey Padilla of the Illinois State Police. And he says because the car was locked, they feel that Tammy intended to come back. She also had a stuffed animal that she was very attached to in that car. And Mama Joanne is like, she would never just leave it. She just wouldn't.
Yeah. And all of her luggage was in there, untouched. There was like a fast food cup in there, no sign of a struggle, no blood. So now they sent out a bolo for Tammy. Everyone is trying to figure out what happened. All of her friends, all of her family, all of her friends at college, they were all really active. So much so that Jen, who we introduced in the beginning, her family's home sort of became Grand Central Station for all the information that everyone was trying to collect. They're cross-referencing maps and sightings. They're trying to get a hold of the story. And the family is on the news making pleas. They're just so distraught. And the media was really active. And of course, when anything ever hits the media, doesn't matter if it was in the 90s or now, you're always going to get tips from all of that information being put out to such a big audience.
And the Illinois State Police, they got a ton of calls about sightings.
We have some witnesses that stated that they saw some individuals around that vehicle.
Many witnesses also report seeing a specific semi-truck and trailer.
And using a sketch artist, they were able to come up with a composite of a tractor trailer in a very specific color with a very specific logo on it. So now the cops are starting to talk to folks at truck stops, and the truckers were more than happy to help. But also the problem is that the general public became very suspicious of all truckers.
Mm-hmm. So now it's 9 days after Tammy went missing, and there is this trucker driving along Interstate 40. Now, that's not really anywhere where Tammy's car was found. This man, who's a down bitch, his name is Lonnie Bierbrodt, and it was September 1st, 1992, and he tells us he was on his way to Joplin, Missouri in order to work on a hot tub. I was like, unnecessary information, sir, but give your business a little plug. Where do you work? We'll tag you. So he was driving and it began to rain really hard. So he had all his tools in the bed of his pickup truck. So he was going to pull over so that his tools didn't get wet. Okay, what? You have to pull out so your tools don't get wet.
So many euphemisms in such a short amount of time.
If you don't pull out, the tool's going to get wet.
Okay.
It's just, you can't avoid it.
Y'all, we're just lightening up because this is about to get very dark. Here's the thing. When Lonnie stepped out of his truck, he was immediately met with a very distinct foul odor. And he decided to investigate the smell. And that's when he stumbles onto something rolled up in a red blanket on the side of the road. Immediately, he said, I recognized that it was a person because I could see the outline of a skull. So then he calls the police. A trooper arrives and asks Lonnie to help him remove the blanket. What the fuck? First of all, no. Yeah. Secondly, don't. Shouldn't a forensics person do this? Like, so you're not contaminating evidence? Like,
yeah, it was very strange. I mean, Lonnie went to Down Bitch University and he majored in what needs to be done, and he got a minor in hand me that pair of gloves and I'll do it. Because he does help. He's the one who looked in the blanket. And to your point, you're contaminating a possible crime scene. Obviously, they don't know what it is yet, but like, shouldn't we just like take all precautions? It was very strange. Not Lonnie's fault at all. Lonnie is a total down bitch. So Lonnie looked inside the blanket and there was a sheet. And then he cut the sheet and he saw a human leg.
Detectives and crime scene technicians are called out to process the scene. The body's then transported to the coroner's office. The victim is a young woman. She's wearing a t-shirt and cut-off sweats or shorts.
But something had been cut off the shorts. And then they discover 7 puncture wounds on the victim's chest that are quite small. Like these were inflicted by a sharp instrument no bigger than a half an inch wide.
They were really small, but what was also really interesting is they were also shallow.
Yeah.
So like, not to be graphic, but like puncture is a good word to use because it wasn't like stab wounds.
Yeah.
It was like, that was so curious about it. The wounds did not go deep.
Yeah.
And she passed from internal bleeding. So, I mean, it was enough to be fatal, but it was very strange what they were looking at.
Yeah. They also found possible defense wounds on the right bicep. And so they believed that perhaps the body had been there for 4 to 5 days, but because there was such little blood at the scene, they also believed that this was not the site of the murder. And through dental records, they are able to determine that this is in fact the body of Tammy Zywicki. It broke my heart. It's like, it's the worst possible outcome. The family gets the news and they could not believe what they were hearing. Also, her friends are so inconsolable.
Oh my gosh,
and again, you know, it's funny because going back to the story of James Dean, someone being so young, they have their whole life ahead of them. They have this bright future and they're beloved. And in an instant, they're gone. And the other thing too is man, college ages, 18, 22, there's young. It's young. It's young.
Babies. They're babies, really, honestly. Like when I was that age, I didn't think I was a baby. But a 21-year-old, I look at a 21-year-old, I'm like, oh, you're very new.
But I mean, that is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a very real life adult situation to try to process in real time, because when I was 21, I thought I was invincible.
Completely.
I thought my parents were invincible.
Yeah.
And it's just so tragic. And also I encourage you all to look up Tammy Zywicki, because every picture they've showed us of her, she just looks like a ray of sunshine. Just the sweetest face with this little gap in her teeth.
Yeah, she's really, really sweet, really beautiful.
Investigators discovered that the fabric missing from Tammy's shorts is a patch from her high school soccer team.
It's possible that was a souvenir.
Also missing is a whimsical watch that Tammy was wearing.
Listen, it's horrible to think, but it's very real. You know, that's why law enforcement does what law enforcement does, because they have to take emotion out of it and they have to find who did this to this poor baby girl.
Yeah.
And so now they have a body, but they don't really have any evidence to link to a killer. So we got a lot of questions and not a lot of answers.
Yeah. So the biggest problem that investigators are facing is that they have no leads. They have no evidence that points them in any sort of direction. No forensics, no witnesses, nothing. So now a task force is assembled and a ton of tips are coming in from all over the country. But several of those tips are very similar to each other. They describe a man at the scene who is a white man between the ages of 30 to 45, 6 feet tall, dark, longer, sort of shaggy neck-length hair. And this person was described as helping Tammy on I-80. But one tipster, they had more details.
Well, this one woman, her gut was really going off. Now, what she described was, if you can imagine Tammy's car going west, right? It's driving west on the shoulder. There was another car that was in front of it. So imagine like one car jumping another car, right? So like essentially one car was facing west, one car was facing east. I'm not Lewis and Clark. I don't know. They were facing different directions. But this woman's gut was tickling, but she had to get home. And she just kind of like, locked it in some little core memory. Then in the newspaper, she sees a picture of Tammy, and ding, 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 her little light switch goes off, and she's like, that's the girl I saw on the side of the road when my gut gave me a tickle.
She drives by now eastbound, and she sees a man, tall, kind of scraggly hair, baseball cap. He's in a green pickup truck, turned around as if to give her car a jump.
I always complain about nosy people, but thank God that there are nosy people, because sometimes they clock things that turn out to be very productive. Well, it turns out that this woman is the county nurse. She's at work one day when a couple comes in. She stops in her tracks because she immediately recognizes one of them as the man who was giving Tammy a jump on I-80. And she says, I knew I had to call you. So this man is identified as 32-year-old Lonnie Bierbrodt. He just happened to spend 9 years in jail for armed robbery and had only been released 2 years prior. His family lived in LaSalle, Illinois, which is not far from where Tammy's car was found. But he lived currently in Sarcoxy, someone correct me if I'm wrong saying that, Missouri, which is just a few miles from where Tammy's body was found. Also, he recently had sold a vehicle, a green pickup truck, the same truck that this witness describes seeing giving Tammy a jump.
Right. So now with the witness identification, the fact that he had a criminal record, and also the fact that he was wearing those creepy fucking 80s glasses.
Ugh.
The glasses that give you the douche bumps.
Yes.
It's like the creepy glasses you get in the creepy man starter pack. You get the glasses, a bolo tie, some Marlboro Reds, and yellow teeth. The creep pack.
I do. They made a comeback for a while, too.
It was great. And so that was enough to call him in for questioning.
So Lonnie says, yes, I was in the area where Tammy was pulled over, but I was only there because I was job hunting. I had nothing to do with her murder. So they're like, cool. We're just going to hunt down the guy you sold that green pickup truck to and give it a good search, which they do. And immediately they're like, this fucker's been steam cleaned. So there's no evidence. And the fact of the matter is he could have steam cleaned it because he was selling it. And, so it's...
Yeah. Side note, I'm obsessed with that reenactment truck. I'm so obsessed with like an old Bronco right now. This is like my new thing. The reenactment truck was very cool.
It was very cool.
And so this guy, douche bumps McGee, gives a hair and blood sample, which is great. But it's not really helpful because there wasn't much forensic evidence. Well, there really wasn't any forensic evidence found at the scene. So they're basically pulling out locks of this man's hair with nothing to compare it to. They're like, well, we'll still take that. And they take it and everything. And they're like, we have this stuff here and nothing to use it for.
Yeah.
Police returned their attention to the semi-tractor trailer that witnesses reported seeing, plus the fact that her body was dumped so many miles away along a busy trucking route.
And it did make sense to investigators that it could potentially be a long-haul trucker. But if it was a trucker, he could be anywhere. So the cops decided to pay attention to any crimes committed against young women by long-haul truckers.
And they don't have to look very far because a man by the name of James Mackey was arrested for attempted rape at a shopping mall. And they were like, okay, this MO kind of lines up. The woman was alone. He tried to attack her. But not only that, because he was a trucker, his trucking route was right along where Tammy's body was found, which also, tracks, but there's only so many of these interstates that these big trucks are allowed to be on. So they look at James Mackey's travel log at the time Tammy went missing, and the travel logs would show that he was 100 miles away during that time, and they closed that case. I'm sorry. Says who?
Yeah.
How do we know? Where's your GPS? Oh, right, you don't have one because it's 1992. What did you wrote that in like your little notebook and your little Mead binder paper?
Yeah.
Where's that log? I don't trust that.
They also had receipts for him, but who knows? I mean, the thing that stands out to me the most is that when he attacked this woman in a mall, it was a crime of opportunity. Do you know?
Completely.
And so with Tammy, it very well could have been the same thing. So they don't really have anything to hold James on, but they do keep him as a suspect for good measure.
But that's not good measure for me. He's a suspect. In my case, the case that investigate, you're still a suspect.
Yep.
Lock him up. Anyway.
So eventually, Tammy's case goes cold and the task force, it was disbanded.
Yeah. Obviously, the family is devastated. They know what happened to Tammy. I mean, but they still want justice for her, and that's just getting further and further away. And we're going to cut to 2007. That's 15 years after Tammy was found, and a new lead comes forward.
A trucker for 20 years, Bruce Mendenhall is arrested in connection with the murder of a 25-year-old woman, but he's also suspected in the murders of several other young women.
He also disposed of the bodies in the same fashion that Tammy was.
Mm-hmm. And his trucker route was on I-80. The media all over this guy.
Yeah.
And so when he's brought in, he admits to killing 2 women and other murders in Alabama and Indiana. But he denies having anything to do with Tammy's murder. And so I don't really agree with this. I don't like it when they say this. They're like, well, the crimes are different. They said, the women that Bruce murdered were all sex workers. This guy was a creep. And, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I understand criminology. I understand profiling. But I also understand that these are sick people and there might be crimes of opportunity. I don't agree with discounting people and being like, that's not how he murdered the other person. I don't know. It comes up all the time, and I understand there is a science behind it. I'm just like, murderers are going to murder. They're horrible people,
Yeah, I think the point that they were trying to make is that the women that he murdered voluntarily got into his truck.
Right? Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah.
But the other part of it is that if Tammy was stranded and desperate and scared and freaked out, there is a world where maybe she would have voluntarily got into his truck,
Totally.
So again, crimes of opportunity. Now in 2012, Jeffrey Padilla is still working on Tammy's case. He was assigned to a task force. And Jeffrey immediately brings it to the Vidocq Society, which is a panel essentially of crime experts. They work as consultants and are made up of highly skilled investigators, forensic scientists, psychiatrists, you name it.
Yeah, and they do all of this work pro bono. I actually looked it up. It's really amazing. And people kind of have to almost submit their cases for them to take on. It's kind of like what the Innocence Project does, right? Like they submit and they say, what is the likelihood we could solve this case? Is there any help we can provide? But the Vidocq Society accepts Tammy's case and they make a profile. And in their investigative expertise, they say that it might have been someone that she already knew because she might have gotten into their car willingly, or it could have been somebody that they have already considered and looked into and they just make some mistakes. So they went back to all of their main suspects and they did some criminology and they came back with a profile of what they think this perpetrator was like.
Detectives now theorize that the killer may be a clean-cut, well-mannered man who tricked Tammy into trusting him.
Somebody non-threatening, somebody her own age, maybe a male and female team.
Going back to Tammy's friends and family, they never gave up on the search for Tammy's killer. They were online actively searching for any information that could change this case.
And during this time, sadly, Papa Hank Zywicki, passes in 2017. And, they say in that episode, and I also found some things in my research that, it was really all he wanted to do towards the end of his life was to just, have his baby's killer behind bars.
Yeah.
And Mama Joanne, I read this thing that she said that was the thing that really broke him, that he didn't want to leave this earth knowing that her potential killer was still there. So it was very heartbreaking. Now, It's 2017, and 25 years their baby girl has been gone. Now, obviously, 2017, there have been so many advancements in science and forensic science and our capabilities with DNA evidence that they re-examine 200 items that were previously tested because they want to solve this case for this grieving family.
Yeah. So they start with Tammy's clothing, as well as the blanket and duct tape she was wrapped in when found. Now, there was a very small DNA sample found on Tammy's shorts that previously they couldn't test. But thanks to advancements in testing, they could now. And so investigators have enough DNA to test it against suspects in this case. And they started with Lonnie Bierbrodt, who, remember, he gave authorities a hair and blood sample back in 1993. I'm just going to cut to the chase. They did not match. But the thing that I thought of is if there is a second person involved, it could have been theirs.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll talk about it at the end of the case. There's a lot of things I don't know. And so he was eliminated. So he was a creep and a fucking weirdo and had those fucked up creepy glasses.
Yep.
But apparently he did not kill Tammy Zywicki. So they're still looking towards truck drivers. And these people are not giving up. They are so persistent. It's honestly like Kimberly with Dateline hanging on to her Android phone.
Yeah.
She is persistent as fuck. Okay?
She's like, one day this will pay off.
Yeah, and so was this family and this investigative team.
Over-the-road trucker Clark Perry Baldwin arrested in Iowa on suspicion in 3 unsolved murders.
59-year-old creep magnet accused of 3 murders that all happened around the time of Tammy's murders.
And y'all, they used DNA samples from the 90s to connect this man to these murders. The thing that stood out about Clark is that he also disposed of bodies in the same manner as Tammy. And so investigators are like, we're going to look into him. And also, it didn't help that he used to live in Missouri and often drove down I-80. But Clark also preyed on sex workers who voluntarily got into his truck. So they don't think it's him. Again, I don't think that that is a reason to rule him out. That's me. But I'm like, if she thought she was going to get help and she was stranded, there's a world where she could have voluntarily got into his truck. So the FBI announces that they are ruling out Clark as a suspect, but they don't say why. And that's because Jeffrey Padilla says, look, this is an ongoing case. There are some things we cannot tell the public because, well, for a myriad of reasons, which I respect, but that does not help a grieving family.
Right, yeah. And then Jeffrey Padilla says this.
I am optimistic that this case is going to be solved within the next year.
And then he shows what a dumb bitch he really is.
But Mrs. Zywicki has heard that for the last 28 years. So I'm sure she doesn't want to hear it from us over and over again. She just wants results, and she has every right to expect results.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I get it. I mean, the family is so patient, and they're like, stop leading us down all these trails. Like, come to us when you have a fucking answer. And they deserve that. And I think that was very admirable of him to say.
You know what's interesting? I would be curious to know if Padilla has ever lost someone that he loves in this way.
Because he has not let go of this case.
No, because there is a distinct difference. Don't get me wrong. There are people out there who are like, this is a job. I'm going to treat it as a job. There are people who have a lot of empathy and they're like, no, I'm going to solve this. I want to help people. And then I feel like there are people who know exactly what this feels like because they've experienced it. And their determination is just night and day compared to someone who doesn't give a shit.
I totally agree.
So this case is ongoing, and all of Tammy's friends are here to say the legacy of goodness that she left behind is unmistakable. They want to bring joy into people's lives the way that Tammy did so effortlessly. And her friend Stacy says, sometimes I see her in my dreams and it's a nice visit from a dear friend. That got me. That got me so good because sometimes I see my dad.
Yep, I believe it. I believe in all that stuff. I do.
Yeah, sometimes my dad will pop into my dreams and just like make me chuckle and I'll wake up with that feeling like I almost feel him in the room. And who knows what it means? Is it a trick of the mind? Is it? I don't know. But all I know is when you have those moments, it's beautiful.
Yeah. The other day I stepped in a pile of shit and I was like, Dad? It's kind of the same. It's the same. We're the
same. You've got to stop stealing my Say Something Funnies.
Wait. Well, listen, this family, though heartbroken and there is no resolution, they are positive. They really are. And I admire that about them.
I think about Tammy a lot. It's a feeling that won't go away. It's a wound that never heals. She lost out on that opportunity to do good. So we're out there doing the good that she didn't have a chance to do.
So if you have any information about Tammy Zywicki that day or any information as to who took her very young, precious life, please call 815-726-6377. They also have a very active Facebook group. It's called Who Killed Tammy Zywicki Facebook group. And I actually joined it and I was able to get a little bit of information because here's the thing. I don't think that these are bad investigators. I think these are investigators with like a very good heart.
Yeah.
And I understand they can't tell us everything, but there's just things where I just want to be like, how do you know?
Yeah.
It's like it's with the logbook and everything because this timeline is really interesting. And this is not in the episode. I found this in my side research. So she left Northwestern about noon. That trooper came to the car at about 5:05 p.m. that day. And the eyewitness accounts range from 3:10 to 4 p.m. And just think of what a short window that is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, right? If there were eyewitnesses seeing her there up until 4 p.m. and the trooper got there at 5:05, it's in the grand scheme, it is such a tight little narrow window. And so another thing is that a witness said that Bierbrodt gave an unusual wristwatch as a gift. Now, what we didn't tell you was that the wristwatch had a music box in it. I think it played Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, right?
Yep.
And somebody said that he had given a similar gift as a present. Listen, from my side research, this Bierbrodt guy, he was released because of lack of evidence. And because that task force was disbanded in February of 1993, there really wasn't much advancements in terms of the technology, and Bierbrodt died in 2002.
Wow.
So they weren't able to further test. I don't know. In my research, and I found a lot of articles and things on that Facebook group. It seems like that guy, and you know what? Not for nothing. I know this holds no kind of evidentiary water at all, but that woman explaining how her gut lit up with that guy and how she remembers. You know when you just have like a picture it's like a memory that's so clear you don't know why it's so clear? I don't know. I feel awful for this family. And there are a lot of people that have looked into this case who also think it was Bierbrodt, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And, the family is so precious. So if you have, any information, please bring it forward and please say something funny.
Well, I was just thinking about dreams and how sometimes people visit us in our dreams and maybe it's real, maybe it's not. But I had a very vivid dream when I was 8 years old that I have not forgotten. And Elvira came and visited me, and we sat on a sofa, and I squeezed her boobs for about 5 minutes, and I enjoyed it.
Was that the straightest dream you've ever had?
The straightest nightmare I ever had.
Oh, down, bitches.
Listen, honestly, Elvira is so hot. It's not a nightmare. It was a dream because Elvira is so hot.
You know she was in the Groundlings. She was like an original Groundlings member. Her name is Cassandra.
Yeah.
Like she's like a big deal. My friend used to live next to her in Hollywood. She's also like a millionaire.
I believe it.
I know. Isn't that crazy? Down, bitches. We are so glad you're here. I actually like this show a lot. It's very well done. They have very comprehensive interviews. But I was like, stop taking us down these fucking red herring, red trails.
Yeah,
Please just tell me if this case is solved. I just want peace for Mama Joanne.
Yeah.
Oh, my stars. You all, please follow us on social media at I Think Not Pod on TikTok and Instagram. We sure would love you to come on by.
And also, if you want to see our hideous faces as we discuss this case, you can hop on over to YouTube and find us at I Think Not Pod. Please subscribe, like, comment, all the things. Parker's doing beautiful work over there. And also, our Facebook group is a wonderful way to immerse yourself in our community and keep up with
whatever it is we're doing.
Yeah.
We watch movies, we have paint parties, we talk about it, and I put pictures of Joey's butt. Also, listen, if you are on the Patreon, thank you so much. But if you are here and you are looking for another way to support us right now and you don't have the funds, we still love you. You can support us for free. If you would interact with our content, like our silly reels, leave a comment, it just kind of like helps us in the algorithm because social media is just a big old game. We do it to entertain you, of course, but that is an absolutely free way to help us. Just like, comment, share, send it to your neighbor, whatever. We appreciate that you're here, and people always ask how they can support us, and it's actually so very easy, and it means the world to us.
And so many of you do, so we're so grateful to you. We love you. Thank you for coming here and listening to our idiot asses flap our gums every week, but we love you.
Until next time, I love you, Joey.
I love you too, Ellen Marsh, and I love you, DB, you sweet little angel baby.
Love you, dumb bitches.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye. Little virus boobies.